Hey guys, welcome back to another Baldur's Gate 3 video. So for your next character, do you want to be a fighter that's like slightly worse than a regular fighter? And do you want to be a caster that's like slightly worse and less committal than a regular caster? Really, I'm asking, do you have committal issues in Baldur's Gate 3? And then the most important part of this is, do you have a few spare babies to sacrifice? And do you have a soul that you're not using or don't mind giving up for, say the rest of eternity? If you answered yes to all of those questions, then you are in the right place, because today we're gonna have a video, a beginner's guide for my favorite class in Dungeons & Dragons and Baldur's Gate 3, the Warlock. The Warlock is one of my favorite classes because it's just so customizable and versatile. There are truly so many ways that you can build up a Warlock and have them be an effective member of your party. Now, because of that, my notes for this video are like over 5 pages long. So I'm gonna do my best to keep this video around the 20-minute mark. But we do have a lot of information to get through. If you do enjoy this video, hit the like button. It does make me feel good to know that I'm providing you guys some sort of value, and it gives me some level of indication that the amount of effort that I put into these videos isn't all for naught. Additionally, make sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you get notifications for more videos like this. And then comment down below on your favorite builds. Do you like the Warlock? Or are you going to try to play a Warlock? Or if you don't have anything to say at all, just comment your favorite emoji. Your engagement is a massive help to the channel and helps other people find this video. All right, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and start talking about the Warlock. So you know how some people achieve greatness, some people are born great, and some have greatness thrust upon them? Well, for this class, they don't exactly have greatness thrust upon them. They more or less sign away their very soul in order to receive their greatness. Yes, if you decide to play as a Warlock, your character is going to be making a pact or an agreement with an otherworldly patron that, in exchange for compensation in the form of power and different abilities, you get to do their bidding for, say, basically all of eternity. It's really very capitalist when you think about it. Now, the good news is, for role-playing purposes, that not all Warlock pacts are necessarily considered inherently evil, but if your patron asks you to sacrifice a few babies, it might be a little evil. Now, if you're playing as a Warlock, you're gonna be part caster, but like not quite as good as a regular caster. You're only going to get 2 to 3 spell slots to use, where someone like a Sorcerer gets like, 10 spell slots. The good news for you, though, is that while a Sorcerer has to wait a full day to get their powers back, you just have to take a quick little 1-hour nap, aka a short rest, and then you have your Warlock spell slots back. Additionally, a big selling point of the Warlock is that their spells are always cast at the highest possible level. What that means is, with a lot of spells, let's use Fireball as an example because it's the best spell. But Fireball is a 3rd level spell. If you cast it at a higher level, it will deal more damage. If the Warlock has, say, unlocked 5th level spell slots, then Fireball will always by default be cast as a 5th level spell. Every spell you get, as long as it is compatible with a Warlock spell slot, will always be cast at the maximum possible level, which is really cool. But again, you only get to do it 2 to 3 times per short rest, so you have to use them kind of sparingly. It's also worth noting that Charisma is going to be used as your spellcasting modifier. This is going to play very well into your role-playing experience if you want to be a talkative, persuasive person. But really, if you're playing as a Warlock, it's only for one reason, that is to cast the best cantrip in the game, and that is Eldritch Blast. Eldritch Blast is the bread and butter of the Warlock, and it has some insane capabilities. The thing is, as you level up, Eldritch Blast is going to get multiple tendrils or different uses that you can do. You can cast up to 3 different tendrils of Eldritch Blast. Now, here's an important note whenever you're multiclassing with a Warlock, is that Eldritch Blast will continue to level up and scale and gain more tendrils and damage regardless of your Warlock level. So that makes it a very appealing class to take to 2nd level and then no further, because your Eldritch Blast is going to continue getting good no matter what. All right, first off, let's talk about races for the Warlock. Really, you should pick whatever race sounds fun to you. I don't think there really is a bad race for the Warlock. We'll talk about some of the pros of several of the races, but again, you can pick whichever one fits your role-playing purposes. It's worth noting, though, that if you want to use melee weapons as an integral part of your playstyle, you don't necessarily need to pick a race that has proficiency with specific weapons. We're going to talk about a feature a little bit later on of the Warlock that you can make yourself proficient with any weapon you want. All right, if you want to play as an elf, you've got the Wood Elves that can move a little bit further. High Elves get an extra cantrip. And I know I just said that the reason you're playing a Warlock is to use the best cantrip, Eldritch Blast. Why in the world would you want a free cantrip? The answer is, you silly player, not all cantrips are damage dealing. You also, as any type of elf, are going to gain advantage on saving against being charmed, and you can't be put to sleep. The Tiefling can be nice. The Zariel Tiefling especially can be nice for a Warlock, especially if you want to go down, we'll talk about this a little bit later, a melee-focused Warlock. That's because at levels 3 and 5, the Zariel Tiefling is going to gain access to a couple of different kinds of smite. They're going to gain Searing Smite at 3rd level and Branding Smite at 5th level. Now, if you want to be basic, you can be a human. They gain proficiency in a skill, so that's fine, I guess. I don't know. I'm a human being every day of the week. I'm good in my fantasy video games of not being a human, but it's up to you. The Githyanki, you get a lot of stuff. You get proficiency in a skill, you gain medium armor proficiency, you gain enhanced jump at 3rd level, and you get Misty Step at 5th level. The Shield Dwarf also gains access to medium armor. The Halfling has the ability that whenever you roll a 1 on an attack, an ability, or saving throw, you get to re-roll that die. And then the Half-Orc has the ability that whenever you crit someone on a weapon attack, you get to roll an extra dice of damage. Additionally, if they're reduced to 0 hit points and would go down, they instead get 1 HP and do not go down. Again, every race is going to have their pros and cons. None of them are the best for a Warlock. Just pick whatever makes the most sense for you and for your role-playing purposes. Next up, we're going to talk about ability scores. Now, the most important ability score for you is going to be Charisma, no questions asked. That is going to be your spellcasting modifier, and with Agonizing Blast, which we'll talk about in a minute, you are going to get to add your Charisma modifier onto the damage of Eldritch Blast. So there's almost no question here. Your Charisma is going to need to be at either 16 or 17. Again, remember that 17 doesn't give you any bonus over 16 other than your 1 point closer to 18. Next up, I've gone back and forth between this. You've got Dexterity and Constitution as your next two most important. They both are going to have their pros. Constitution is going to be nice because it's going to enable you to, I don't know, stay alive a little bit longer. Going to influence how many hit points you get. Additionally, if you're casting spells that require concentration, Constitution saving throws are what enable you to maintain your concentration on spells. But going into Dexterity would also increase your armor class, and it would increase your initiative roll. So there's a good argument for both. I'll put the abilities that I personally would run on the screen. They're not set in stone. You could definitely move the numbers around a lot. I would say the constants are going to be an 8 in strength because you don't really need strength. A 10 into intelligence and wisdom. Again, those are not, the primary skills for a warlock. I would put a 16 or a 17 into charisma. The advantage of putting a 16 into charisma is then you can make your constitution and dexterity 14 or 16. I would probably only do that though if you plan on taking a feat to increase your ability score by 2 so that you can get your charisma up to 18. Being at 17 gives you the opportunity to take something like actor or performer, which increases your charisma by 1 while giving you other bonuses so you still get up to 18. All right, again, for background, this is very much for role-playing purposes. Pick whatever background makes sense for your character that you're making. Obviously, since charisma is going to be big for you, it makes sense if you want to pick a background that influences your charisma-based skills, but you certainly don't have to. Just pick whatever makes sense for your character. All right, now that we've talked about your character and how you're going to maybe build your character, let's talk about these otherworldly patrons that you're going to be serving. In Baldur's Gate 3, you have 3 different options for your patrons. 1, you have a devil that's going to become your sugar mommy or sugar daddy. 2, you have literally Cthulhu. And then 3, you have some tricksy little fairies. I'm gonna be honest, the Fiend is probably going to be the most popular one that people pick. The Great Old One is probably my second choice, and then the Archfey is probably my least favorite. That should not influence you and prevent you from getting that. It's just not my particular favorite. The Fiend is going to be very focused on offense and evocation spells. The Great Old One is going to be focused more on debuffs and controlling your enemies. And then the Archfey is going to be more on tricking your enemies, stealth, and then controlling them as well. Let's talk about the bonuses that you get with each one of these different otherworldly patrons. If you decide to make a pact with the Fiend, at first level, you get Dark One's Blessing. What that is going to do is that whenever you kill someone, you're going to gain temporary hit points equal to your Charisma modifier plus your Warlock level. I'm not gonna lie, it's real nice. At 6th level, you're going to get Dark One's own Blessing, which is going to enable you to basically just roll a d10 if you want to increase an ability roll. You're allowed to do this once per short rest. So if you got a dialogue check you really need to pass, Dark One's own Blessing, it's right there for you. Finally, at 10th level, you get Fiendish Resistance, which every short rest, you could just get to pick a damage type and be resistant to it, which is really nice. Just maybe know ahead of time what kind of enemies you're going to be attacking. Like if you're going into hell, fire might be a great option. If you're going into the Underdark, maybe poison. If you're going to be fighting a bunch of people with spears, pick piercing damage. But again, Fiendish Resilience is really nice. Next, let's talk about the Great Old One. At level 1, you are going to get Mortal Reminder. Whenever you critically hit someone, that creature and all nearby creatures are going to become frightened. I guess that's kind of cool. At 6th level, you get Entropic Ward. What that's going to do is, as a reaction, whenever someone is going to attack you, you can impose disadvantage on their attack roll. If that attack misses, then you gain advantage on that same attacker for your next attack roll, and you can do this once per short rest. Then finally, at 10th level, you're going to get Psychic Resistance and Psychic Reflection, meaning you are going to gain resistance to all psychic damage, and on top of that, anytime someone deals psychic damage to you, you deal that psychic damage right back to them. And then for the Archfey, at level 1, you get Fey Presence, that is going to charm or frighten nearby enemies, and you can only do this once per short rest. At level 6, you get Misty Escape once per short rest. Whenever someone damages you, you can become invisible as a reaction, and then on your next turn, you can cast Misty Step. Casting Misty Step, however, is going to break your invisibility. Then at 10th level, you gain Beguiling Defenses, which means you cannot be charmed. Just like be an elf and gain advantage on saving against being charmed. I don't know. For me, the Archfey feats are just like kind of meh. Now that we've covered the different patrons with whom you can make pacts, let's talk about the different pacts themselves that you can make those patrons. First off, we have the one that probably everyone is going to pick, which is the Pact of the Blade. The Pact of the Blade is if you just want to hit shit really hard. This is an extremely common pact as well if you want to multi-class, which we'll talk about a little bit later in the video. The Pact of the Blade is going to enable you to summon any sort of weapon as a pact weapon. Additionally, and I referenced this a little bit earlier, it's going to enable you to pick whatever weapon you want. It doesn't matter what race you are. It doesn't matter what type of weapon you are. Whatever weapon you are. It doesn't matter what type of weapon you have. And it doesn't matter if you have proficiency with that weapon. You can pick that weapon, make it your pact weapon, and boom, you gain proficiency with it. And you get to add your charisma modifier and use your charisma modifier as your governing attribute for attacks and damage. At 5th level with your Deep Impact, you gain an extra attack with your pact weapon. And what can I say? This opens the door to dealing a lot of damage. But it's going to take away from your Eldritch Blast because we just want to blast stuff, right? The next pact is going to be the Pact of the Tome. This is going to give you access to the Grimoire of Shadows, which sounds super dope. It's going to give you access to some cantrips like Guidance, which is huge. It gives a 1d4 to every ability check you want. It might be one of the most powerful cantrips in the game. You're also going to gain Vicious Mockery and Thorn Whip, which those are nice, but let's be honest, we're going to use Eldritch Blast. However, at 5th level, that's when it gets interesting. You're going to get some spells. You're going to get Animate Dead, Haste, and Call Lightning. Haste is awesome because whoever you cast Haste on, for 10 turns, as long as you maintain concentration, they get an extra action. Call Lightning is also nice because that is a concentration spell that allows you to call lightning down on an area, dealing damage, but additionally, it's kind of like Witch Bolt, and that as long as you're maintaining concentration, you can keep casting it every turn without expending another spell slot. It's not Eldritch Blast, but it's pretty cool. And now let's talk about the Pact of the Chain, which is, I'm gonna be honest, probably the least popular pact. This is going to enable you to conjure several different types of familiars once per short rest. It's worth noting that these familiars are not intended to be massive damage dealing characters. These familiars are going to be here in order to inflict status effects upon your enemies like blinded, sleep, poison, etc. They are very heavy for support, they are very helpful, but they are not there to do damage. Please don't think that the frog that you are calling in is going to be useful for dealing damage. It's there to poison people. You can use these very effectively and strategically, but it's not quite as sexy as getting a massive sword that you can just smack people. Next up, let's talk about your Eldritch invocations that you are going to be granted from your patron as a warlock. You are going to get 2 Eldritch invocations at level 2, and then at levels 5, 7, and 9, you are going to pick 1 additional Eldritch invocation. I'm not going to go through every single Eldritch invocation, I'm just going to highlight some of the ones that I enjoy. We gotta start off with the 2 big daddies of all the reasons why everyone wants to be a warlock, and that is going to be Agonizing Blast and Repelling Blast. Agonizing Blast is going to enable you to add your charisma modifier to the damage you deal with Eldritch Blast. It's just like, it's the bread and butter. It's what makes a warlock a warlock. It's really hard to pass up on Agonizing Blast. Repelling Blast is nice because it allows you to just yeet people with Eldritch Blast. It's also a passive, you can turn it on or off, so if you don't want to accidentally yeet a boss off the side of a cliff because you want to get their gear, you can turn it off in the passives menu. But I think it knocks them back, what, 4.5 feet away? Yeah, 4.5 meters, sorry, we're metric here. 4.5 meters away. Absolutely massive for cheesing people. It's truly so much fun. I'm not gonna lie, this is probably an unpopular one. I like beast speech just because I like to be able to talk to animals. I like that my character can talk to animals. I don't know. I usually pick beast speech at some point along the way. I honestly sometimes forego Repelling Blast for beast speech at the beginning and then pick up Repelling Blast at 5th level. It is worth noting though that you can always have someone else in your party talk to animals, or you can get potions of speak to animals. They're pretty common. Mire of the Mind is also a nice Eldritch invocation. It enables you to cast slow. I'm gonna read the slow effects because there's a lot of them. Movement speed is halved, armor class reduced by 2, dexterity saving throws reduced by 2, cannot take reactions, can only take 1 action or bonus action, you cannot do both, you cannot make more than 1 attack per turn, and spells cast might be delayed for a turn. So like, pretty nice, and it's an area of effect, and it requires concentration. Book of Ancient Secrets isn't a bad choice. It gets you a couple of low-level spells that you can cast, and you don't have to use a spell slot for them. For these, you get Ray of Sickness, Chromatic Orb, but you get Silence. And Silence is the big one for me because that's going to shut down any opposing spellcasters that you're fighting. Dreadful Word is also nice because it enables you to cast Confusion, which basically turns a group of enemies into a Pokemon that you don't have a high enough gym badge to control. Sculptor of the Flesh sounds kind of fun because you get to turn someone into a sheep, and who doesn't want to turn someone into a sheep, right? Minions of Chaos at 9th level, that's kind of fun because you get to summon an elemental or a Myrmidon, that's pretty cool. Whispers of the Grave, I probably wouldn't get because you get an amulet like at the beginning of the game that lets you cast Speak with the Dead at will. Like, I don't need an Eldritch invocation for that. Life Drinker at 12th level is going to be massive for your Warlock though if you have picked the Pact of the Blade. This is really nice because on melee attacks, it's going to enable you to deal necrotic damage equal to your charisma modifier as bonus damage. Really, really nice for Pact of the Blade. All right, now as you level up as a warlock, you are going to gain feats. Let's talk about some feats that you might find helpful as a warlock. If you are picking the Pact of the Blade, in my opinion, this is a non-negotiable feat. You need to get Savage Attacker. Savage Attacker means that whenever you do a melee attack, you're going to get to roll your damage dice with advantage. I mean, that's real nice. Straight up ability improvement is really hard to go wrong with the Warlock because you're gonna wanna max out your charisma as fast as possible. So getting to just increase your charisma by 2 or by 1 is really, really nice. Actor is an incredibly nice feat for your Warlock. This is going to give them a +1 to charisma, so if you picked a 17 to begin with, you're now at 18. It's going to give you proficiency in performance and deception, and your proficiency bonus is going to be doubled for deception and performance checks. Another feat that's really good is the performer feat because once again, it's gonna give you that +1 to charisma, and it lets you play a musical instrument. Like, who doesn't wanna just be able to play a musical instrument? This is where band geeks get to exact their revenge on people that called them band geeks and hit them with Eldritch Blast. Now, as a Warlock, you are also going to be a casting class, meaning you're going to have access to a bunch of different spells. Now, it's worth noting that depending on which patron you make your pact with, God, that's getting hard to say, you will have some unique spells that you have access to, along with just the global Warlock spells. Now, I could go through and read off every single spell that each one gets uniquely, but I have a feeling that you guys would probably just skip over that anyway, and I don't feel like I'm really doing you a lot of good. So instead, I'll just put on screen all the different unique spells that the different patrons give you, and then you can just read those yourself if you're that interested. So I'm doing that now. Pause and take a screenshot if you want to. Next, we will go a little bit more detail on some spells though. Let's talk about some of the noteworthy spells that you can get as you level up. We are going to sort through these by spell slot. All right, let's get my notes up here because there's a lot of spells here. For level 1 spell slots, let's talk about Armor of Agathis. That's a very good beginning level spell. It's gonna give you 5 temporary hit points, and whenever someone melees you, you're going to receive 5 frost damage. Hex is going to be huge because it's going to deal 1d6 of damage. Additionally, every time you deal damage to someone. Boy, were those words in the correct order? I don't know, we're gonna go with it. Arms of Hadar is good at the beginning because it's good for like escaping. You can cast Arms of Hadar. They can't take reactions, then you can run away. Command is awesome. You can force someone to flee, drop their weapon, go prone for your rogue to get some advantage. It's just a really nice commanding spell. Fairy Fire that the Archfey gives you is nice because that's going to enable you to grant advantage on attack rolls to everyone that's caught in the Fairy Fire. Again, very good for your rogue. Witchbolt is also a nice first level spell because it's going to enable you to recast it over and over without expending another spell slot as long as you remain concentrating. Remain concentrating, continue concentrating. Words are hard, guys. It's also nice because without giving any spoilers, there are going to be some characters that like invoke some level of duplicity, whether that's making copies or doing things that make you not know who to attack, and Witchbolt lets you know exactly which one you need to attack. At second level, Hold Person is just massive. Someone in your party needs to know Hold Person. It's just so good. Detect Thoughts is nice, but I don't know that I really want to expend a Warlock spell slot to use Detect Thoughts. Warlock spell slots just come at such a premium. There's so many opportunities to use Detect Thoughts. Misty Step is huge, however, to try to get out of danger, and it requires only a bonus action. Scorching Ray that you get from the Fiend is nice because it deals just a crap ton of damage. And then Cloud of Daggers is fun because it just sounds, can you just imagine in real life just seeing a cloud of daggers? Like, pick that up if nothing else than just for the name. At third level, you have Fireball, and only Fireball, because Fireball is the answer to every single problem in all of Dungeons & Dragons. Trying to persuade someone? Fireball. Need to unlock a door? Fireball. Get invited to a wedding you don't want to attend? Fireball. Pick the Fiend, get Fireball. Just get Fireball. It's the only spell that matters. On a serious note though, Warlocks also at third level get Hunger of Hadar, which is maybe one of the best spells in the entire game. It's an AoE spell that requires concentration that is going to blind everyone inside of it, make it difficult terrain, and deal damage every time they enter it and end their turn inside of the Hunger of Hadar. It's truly so good. It is truly a can't miss. You have to pick it up. I'm honestly a fan of Gaseous Form. Gaseous Form is going to enable you to turn someone into a gas. This is really nice because there are some opportunities where you can like go through like a pipe. You can also like fly through doors with bars. It's really good if you want to be the ultimate like super spy. Other level 3 spells are Slow and Stinking Cloud. Those are also very nice to have. Fourth level spells, Dimension Door is nice if you need to help someone make an escape. Wall of Fire does exactly what it sounds. It makes a wall of fire. Who doesn't want a wall of fire? And then Banishment is nice if you just need to like, if you need to press the pause button on one enemy and then maybe kill all their minions and it's like, okay, now we're ready to fight. You can banish someone for 2 turns. At 5th level, a really nice one is Hold Monster, because some of the most terrifying things you're going to have to fight are monsters. Hold Monsters like Hold Person, but for monsters. And it's really, really nice. 10 out of 10 would recommend Hold Monster. Cone of Cold, Flame Strike, also very nice, as well as Telekinesis. And then finally, your Mystic Arcanum, your level 6 spells. Circle of Death is fine, I guess. This is by no means an exhaustive list. If it's not in this list, that doesn't mean it's trash and that you should go into the comments and tell me I'm trash for not mentioning it, although I know you will. There's just so many things you can pick, and I can't talk about every single one or this will be an hour-long video. All right, we're almost at the end. Let's talk about multiclassing. Now here's the thing. You could do a lot of multiclassing with the Warlock. Again, did I mention that the Warlock is super versatile? There are a few different multiclasses you can do, and unfortunately, most of them are going to rely on you doing Pact of the Blade and the Fiend. However, not necessarily the case for all of them. It's also worth noting that we're about to talk about multiclassing, but you don't need to multiclass a Warlock. Like, Warlocks are super great all on their own. Like, you can take a Warlock up to 12th level and not feel bad about it. They are very, very good classes. So just because we're going to talk about multiclass options does not mean you need to multiclass, because you're going to be missing out on something. Pure Warlocks are great. First off, let's talk about a super basic one, which is going to be a Warlock merged with a Fighter. For that, you're going to do 10 levels of Warlock and 2 levels of Fighter. Literally, the only reason we're doing 2 levels of Fighter is to get Action Surge, which is going to give us another opportunity to cast Eldritch Blast. That's it. That's the only reason we pick Fighter. Now, if this is like your thing, this isn't my thing. I'm not really interested in this multiclass, but if you want it and you just want to see just truly how many times you can cast Eldritch Blast at once, you could do something like I have it written down: 2 levels into Warlock, 2 levels into Fighter, 3 levels into Rogue, and then 5 levels into Sorcerer. Now, the reason Warlock is only 2nd level is because, like I said earlier, Eldritch Blast is going to continue growing even if you don't level up as a Warlock. So you're going to go 2 levels into the Warlock just to get your Eldritch invocations, to get Agonizing Blast and Repelling Blast. You're going to go 2 levels into Fighter so that you get that Action Surge so you can cast your bonus action. You are going to go 3 levels into Rogue and then go as a Thief so that you get another bonus action. And then you're going to go to 5 levels into Sorcerer, because then you can use your sorcery points. Hold on, pause. I challenge someone to think of a more nerdy 2-word phrase than sorcery points. Okay, sorry, I got distracted. You can use your sorcery points to cast action-based spells or cantrips as bonus actions. So now your 2 bonus actions, the one from being a Thief from your 3rd level Rogue, and your other bonus action, you can now cast more Eldritch Blasts. So I think by my count right now, you have 4 Eldritch Blasts, each with 3 tendrils. That's 12 instances of damage. If you have someone cast haste on you, that's 5, that's 15. That's a lot. That's excessive. So like, if that's all you care about, maybe try that. I don't know. That's a lot. Next, let's talk about a Warlock Paladin, and good luck on how you're gonna work this into like your role playing, on how you sold your soul to like be divine protector of truth and justice. You do you, I'm not that smart. But if you want to be a Warlock and Paladin, go 7 levels into Warlock and then 5 levels into Paladin. Seen a lot of arguments for a lot of other things. I'm not a min-maxer, I'm not the best theory crafter out there. Go have that argument with someone else, I don't really care. 7 levels into Warlock and 5 levels into Paladin, though, seems to do the job. Now, 7th level for the Warlock, you're going to gain your 3rd level Warlock spell slots. That is going to allow you to cast all of your smites for your Paladin at 3rd level. Again, if you use those Warlock spell slots. The nice thing is you get those back on a short rest, rather than if you were to go a higher level of Paladin, you would get those 3rd level Paladin spell slots, but those will only come back every long rest. So Warlock and Paladin, you would probably want to merge this with the Pact of the Blade, and then just deal lots and lots of damage, smiting everyone you come across. So if you want to focus more on close quarters combat and not quite as much on Eldritch Blast, you can go Warlock into Paladin. Next, let's talk about the Warlock and the Bard. If you want to never worry ever again about failing an ability check, then go Warlock into Bard. Honestly, to make this work, you can go 10 levels into Warlock and then honestly just 2 into Bard, and you're probably good. Being a level 2 Bard is going to give you just an extra short rest to recover all of your Warlock spell slots, and you're going to gain proficiency in tons of skills. So if you like being a skill monkey and being able to just do literally everything, Warlock into Bard is super fun. You could also, this isn't really a Warlock multiclass, this is really a Bard multiclass. You could go 10 levels into Bard and then only 2 into Warlock if you want to be a Bard that just also has Eldritch Blast. Bards do a lot of buffing, debuffing, crowd control kinds of things, but this isn't a Bard build guide, this is a Warlock build guide, so we're not gonna go super far into that. For the purposes of this video, 2nd level Bard is fine, you get an extra short rest, lots of skills, super cool. Now this last one, I don't even really want to mention it because I don't like it, because it's not a Warlock multiclass. This is a Sorcerer with a Warlock attached to it. And that is to go with a Warlock Sorcerer multiclass, and the way you do this is you go 10 levels of Sorcerer and 2 levels of Warlock. This is just a Sorcerer with Eldritch Blast. This is not a Warlock multi-class, but if you want to do it, you can. This is just going to enable you to have access to Eldritch Blast with Agonizing Blast and Repelling Blast, and it's going to enable you to use your sorcery points to cast Eldritch Blast as a bonus action. So you can do that if you want, but again, that's a Sorcerer multi-class, not a Warlock multi-class. Let's be honest with ourselves. All right, guys, hopefully you're still with me. The final thing I want to talk about are some useful items that you can get for your Warlock. Now, again, because the Warlock is such a versatile class, there's multiclassing, there's a lot of stuff you can do. There are just truly so many items in Baldur's Gate 3 that it does not make sense to go through every single type of build you might do and every single item. I'm going to talk about just a couple of very, very core items that you might want to get. The most important item your Warlock will ever want to get is going to be the Potent Robe. You are going to get the Potent Robe in Act 2. You are going to get it at the end of the mission called Rescue the Tieflings. I will say no more because spoilers. The Potent Robe is going to enable you to add your Charisma modifier onto the damage of your cantrip. But wait, aren't we already doing that with Agonizing Blast? And the answer is yes, we sure are. And it stacks, baby. Your Eldritch Blast is going to be dealing so much damage with the Potent Robe. Additionally, you get to gain temporary hit points equal to your Charisma modifier at the beginning of each one of your turns. Potent Robe, when you find it, if you find it, must have for your Warlock. Okay, I think that's it. I think we made it through everything. Gosh, there's so much to talk about with a Warlock, but guys, hopefully you found this helpful. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please drop a like. These videos take a lot of work. It makes me feel good to know that I'm providing you guys with some level of value. Comment down below. Did you enjoy this video? Are you playing as a Warlock? Are you looking forward to playing as a Warlock? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. If you don't have anything to say, just comment your favorite emoji. Your comments and your engagement are a massive help to the channel. Thank you guys for watching. Go play Baldur's Gate. Hopefully have fun. Subscribe, notification bell, all that fun stuff. We'll see you in Baldur's Gate. Have a great day.